Senator Francis Heyliger, you ready? The stage is yours, 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, testifiers. Good afternoon to the people of this territory.
It's still morning. It's still morning, ma'am.
Dive right in. When it comes to these components coming into the territory, why do you think we need much harsher penalties and punishments for the pieces? I know this legislation is coming forward, but for example, we put legislation on bullets. We put legislation on all elements. What are your thoughts? Do you think this is going to reach far enough? Do you think we need to go a little bit further? What are your thoughts on that?
Stay there. Leave it there. You want to come down?
Can you guys hear me? Who's responding?
You want to say hi? You were looking for FaceTime and now you're saying hi?
Excuse me, Senator. Senator Heyliger, hold up a second. To all testifiers online, please mute your mics. Make sure that your mics are muted at this time. Go ahead, Senator.
I asked my question. I was waiting for a response.
It was directed towards
the commissioner. The commissioner nominee can respond to that. That's fine.
Oh, I think that as it pertains to the penalties, Senator, I don't. I'll yield to Council Chancellor, but I will just add quickly that I do believe that we need. I don't know if we need harsher penalties, because I don't think we have any penalties right now on the books as far as the components. I agree that with certain parts it should be misdemeanor, but I also think that with other parts, maybe with folks that are bringing in firing pins or barrels and certain other parts that are not, are the true components of the weapon, that those should be a felony.
Thank you so much for that response. I also want to ask you directly, one of the things that we hear about, for example, guns coming into the territory at the airport, you have to declare. What is the process there? Because I've heard several complaints as to you come in, sometimes nobody is there. What is the situation that's happening there?
Yeah, Senator, in the last couple of weeks, we've got individuals stationed at assigned to both airports in the booths. I know that I think it's by the very same requirements, you're supposed to call in or to provide that information to our department several days in advance. We're usually there. We have been picking up the weapons and bringing them in. So I'm not certain. I know we did have an issue early on where we did not have anyone at the airports, but most recently we've taken care of that and have been doing a much better job.
I'm happy to hear that because, and this is from people directly that I know that did come in with weapons and they were looking to declare and they were like, but there's nobody here. So they were very concerned, like this is how easy it is for guns to get into the territory. Because if we as the government is not doing our part to guarantee that somebody's always stationed there when they get off this plane, it's a major problem for us. So I'm happy to hear in recent weeks that you guys have stepped up the game in regards to that, but it has to be something consistent, not, depending on what the situation is. Sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. Have you done any type of statistical data in regards to tracking components coming into the territory? Have you collected anything? Do people, what happens there?
We have not collected any data
Nothing.
regarding the amount of components that have been brought in.
Okay. For example, the possession of an unregistered component, is it just a misdemeanor if something happens based on what we're creating with this law? I'm trying to, because I was reading through it. It's a misdemeanor. Do you think misdemeanors is enough if we're seriously trying to deter people from, shipping in the parts and building these guns and potentially using them for, criminal activity? Or I'm really trying to figure out how to put a stop to a lot of this. You understand what I'm saying? Because my purpose is the protection of the people of this territory.
Well, Senator, again, there's no right or wrong answer or no one answer to your question. Are there individuals that a harsher or sterner penalty are going to deter? Yes. And are there individuals who, regardless of the penalty, are not going to be deterred? Yes. What those numbers are, I do not know. I would imagine that we would have to get the legislation in, start making some arrests, and just to see if it does, in fact, deter those individuals or any of the other individuals.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for those answers. I am in support of this piece of legislation. I really think it is something that is timely, and we really have to combat the criminal element from making sure that however they get these guns in here, we have to stop them from all, whether the sea, whether the ports, whether through the mail, whatever we have to do. And I applaud my minority colleague for bringing this piece of legislation, because at the end of the day, the protection of the people is what is first and foremost in my mind. So thank you very much for answering my questions.
Thank you for your line of questioning, Senator Francis Heyliger. Excuse me.
And Alma Francis Heyliger, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, people of the territory and testifiers. I want to thank you so much for just really being here so we could discuss this piece of legislation. I want to ask quickly, as it relates, you spoke a little bit earlier about increased penalties, and nationally, from what you said, it's not really helping. It's not really deterring the criminals. What options do you think should be put in place, if you're saying based on your research or knowledge, if it's not working?
Well, Senator, again, I indicated that it's not working in some areas, not all. And I just had to put it out there because that's what the statistics and the evidence shows. What works is, again, changing the mindset. And I think we have to approach this from more than one perspective. Do we need this loophole closed? By all means. But again, we have to be extremely careful that there's some of these actors who, let's be honest, are not really out there to, while they may fall under the violation of the statute, it's not everyone that's out there with these firearms that are out there intending to commit crimes. The reality of it is that there's some actors out there who are there simply because they must walk with or they feel that they must walk with a firearm to protect themselves. So is the question that we should have this person incarcerated for 10 years? For the most part, yes, but I think that I don't think we should be restrictive.
Okay. So basically, it's to the mandatory minimum. The mandatory minimum part of it is where you're having a concern. So what are the... Yes. Okay.
Yes, Senator. And also just to the fact that we have to be extremely careful of the ramifications. Again, as Attorney Chancellor stated, the most prevalent of our crimes right now are in fact our gun-related crimes, whether it's from possession right on up to those individuals who are engrossed in acts of gun violence. So it's not simply about, we just cannot and should not look simply at incarcerating these individuals. We need to actually ensure that we've got the wherewithal to, once we've prosecuted them, to incarcerate them, to rehab them so that they are not repeat offenders, and so that we can reduce our recidivism as well.
Okay. Has there been any kind of research done on the economic impact of potentially putting X amount of people in jail for 10 years, as opposed to having other types of alternatives? And could you also recommend, do you think, or do you know of any other alternatives outside of mandatory minimums that actually do work in communities to help deter these types of crimes?
Again, who are you directing the question to any particular person, Senator?
Well, no? Any of the panelists that can respond to me is okay. I'm listening.
Well, I know that, we have discussed in my office other types of programs for first-time offenders under our gun statutes, that there may be other ways that we can help these individuals, because like the commission nominee stated, it's not necessarily everyone who we want to target with a minimum mandatory 10-year minimum with no possibility of part of that sentence being suspended. It may not be. I don't know. It may be that you have a young man who, for whatever reason, has a gun. We have a society that, we give toy guns to our kids, and they grow up with these ideas in their head. And so I know there are other places that have enacted various programs and partnerships whereby they may have interventions that could help maybe educate these individuals as to the harm that they're doing to their community and to themselves. I know we were talking here about maybe some type of online class that we could mandate for that sort of thing, because when we have people who say drunk drivers, we mandate that they attend some sort of alcohol or substance abuse counseling. Something maybe to that effect may help. We'd have to look at other jurisdictions to see how we could.
Well, I'm going to put my stance on the record. I honestly am not too much a fan of mandatory sentences. And I am more of the onset of it should be based on a case-by-case basis. I know that mandatory sentences are there as a deterrent, but we see over the years, even with them in existence, a lot of these crimes still continue. So my thing has to do with, I like to look at it from the entire perspective of what happened to that individual that caused them to have a gun in the first place to walk around. You guys spoke to the fact of society, whether they had guns as kids, toy guns, the environment they're in where they feel they might have to have one. I also look and go even deeper to the socioeconomic issues that people might be having as to why they feel these guns are necessary for them. And I am not a proponent or condoning gun violence in any which way, shape, or form. I am more about the reformation of individuals so that they don't even have to continue on this pathway, as opposed to our only solution is to say, you are only deserving of being locked away for 10 years. Now, if it's an instance where a situation occurs and we know that it's intentional, I'm wondering if the bill could be crafted in a way where at the end of the court case, you know that that is how it was deemed, but it also could be crafted to give the judge a leeway depending on what or how the case transpired and how it ended. And I am more leaning towards that as opposed to just saying this is the case and lock up, because I know every instance is not the same if our goal is to stop people from doing this in the first place. So that's my thought process on it. Okay? But I thank you guys for sharing your opinion and sharing how you feel on the legislation, and I will make a decision accordingly after we discuss it as a whole, as members of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Francis Heyliger. Senator Francis Heyliger, you recognize for your point of inquiry.
Well, I asked for a point of information.
Point of information, you recognize.
As I sat here and I listened to my colleague passionately share his thoughts on his bill, 10 years ago, I was called to my family home, and when I got there, I was told that someone came into my family home and murdered my brother. I would not leave that location until those officers zipped open that bag because I needed to see it for myself. And what I witnessed was somebody who more than likely used an illegal gun to put a bullet in my brother's head, somebody that I had loved for over 30 years. So I fully understand the damage that is done in this territory by weapons and people making irresponsible decisions to take away people's loved ones. But as a senator, I also have to be responsible in making sure that these laws across the board are balanced in a way that it does not disrupt our society, that even when situations occur, that other people, whether they did things deliberately, violently, or whatever, the punishment is accordingly to what the situation is. And I cannot co-sign on mandatory minimums when all the facts in a lot of times are not before us. I believe judges are there for a reason. That is their jurisdiction. And I understand in certain cases, mandatory minimums can be allowed in the law, but I don't think that they're always the best deterrent to change the way and the mindset of the people in our society to want to be productive and good citizens. So I applaud my colleague, but I know firsthand what this situation does. But I still have to be responsible and look at the entire picture holistically and make a decision accordingly. So I don't want to be classified that if I don't support mandatory minimums, that I don't believe in changing the mindset and the way this territory moves forward when it comes to illegal guns. I do believe in education. I do believe in making sure our young people get the knowledge and the power they need not to become these criminal citizens. I have to make those decisions as an elected official. So I want to thank my colleague for bringing this forward. And amendments are good. If you hear all of your colleagues saying, listen, we support what you're saying, we understand it, but you potentially might need to amend it in certain places so it could be better. Think about it. It's an option. But when you're saying, let's leave it the way it is years from now, that's a concern for me. So I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Senator Francis Heyliger, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon once again, colleagues. Good afternoon to the testifiers, to the people of this territory. Commissioner Designee Martinez, I want to ask you, currently as you just come into this position, do you find that you have adequate enough officers to get the job done?
We get the job done. We can always use more officers. I don't like to respond to the fact that we don't have enough to get the job done, Senator. The job has to get done.
It has to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
So from your perspective, it would be good if you could get a little bit more.
Certainly.
Okay. I want to find out, based on what are the current ratios of crimes that are still left unsolved versus crimes that are currently solved. Do you have any numbers in regards to that? And in addition, could you share with me numbers when it comes to specifically murders in the territory of crimes that are solved versus unsolved?
That is a question I was not prepared to answer, Senator, regarding the solvability of those crimes. What I can tell you is that we have not done the best job, and for a number of reasons. I'm not going to sit here and point fingers. As from a departmental standpoint, we can always do better. We need to do better, but and it starts and it ends with us. And I know that throughout the term, you will hear myself and my executive team, our chiefs and stuff, speaking and asking for the community's assistance. And while that is something that is definitely needed, because we cannot solve the bulk of these crimes without the community's assistance. At the end of the day, I have learned from day one in this seat, I've always said that we have to do a much better job than what we've been doing. The community has to see the VIPD giving 110%, moving towards solving crimes, and to build that confidence back up for them to want to assist us as well.
And I do happen to agree with that. And one of the reasons why I believe that would lend more to solving crimes, to show the community that things are being done, and you might have a reduction in crime when especially criminals are convicted. And that's why I wanted to know a little bit of the ratio. But I will request to the chair, once you guys are capable of getting that information, could you please forward it to the committee members? Domestic violence, as you know, over the past year or so, because of COVID-19, even leading off from the hurricanes and all these variety of things, based on what's been reported, there seems to be a rise in domestic violence in the territory. Could you expound a little bit on that, as well as potential of how does your officers deal with domestic violence situations? And do you believe the current laws are effective enough to assist you in doing your job, as well as protecting the community? Or do you think there's room for improvement?
Okay. Well, the short answer, I'll answer the latter first. We can always do a better job. But I also think that you have got to look at, it's not just here, but it's also on the national front as well. Since COVID-19, we've had nationally about 33% increase in violent crimes, to include murder. And I think domestic violence crimes are even higher than that. I think they're close to...
Well, Commissioner, I'm aware of those numbers, but I live here. So that's why I'm a bit concerned about what's happening.
I have not... Well, the reason, Senator, that I'm throwing those numbers out is because, again, I don't want it to appear as if it's just here that these things are.
I don't think anyone with common sense. It's like crime doesn't just happen here in the territory, but this is a small community, and when things happen, it's like almost like on a large scale, and it impacts so many people because so many people are so close knit. So what I'm trying to figure out is how are we handling it? What potentially I as a legislator can do to potentially improve laws so you could have better capabilities to execute and get your job done in a better way.
Well, I think, Senator, that my personal opinion is that I don't have an issue with any of the domestic violence laws. I think that our laws, as with any other laws, can always use a little shoring up. But I think that they're those that we have on the books now, we've been able to utilize. And, I haven't heard of any issues per se with the current laws. What I can also do is ask Director Carolyn Watley if she may have any of those stats regarding the increase in domestic, have available, that is, any of those stats regarding the increase in domestic violence cases that you're asking for. Ms. Watley.
Thank you.
Time. Hi, good afternoon. Could you tell me what time period you were referring to?
Well, from COVID standpoint, I had also referenced from hurricane time go forward and also during the COVID period.
First for you. I don't have them ready available, but I'll work on them.
Okay. Mr. Chair, may I ask my final question, please?
Yes, ma'am, you may. Go ahead.
One of the things that, thank you. One of the things that I've noted, because in being in other committee meetings from Homeland Security, I had an issue dealing with the police department's website. And I brought it to your attention, well, not yours specifically, I think the previous commissioner, that the website is to be utilized for public interaction, information, and it is very outdated. And there's quite a bit of information like from years ago that no longer exists. Is anyone really monitoring that site so that it's up to date and current? I mean, even now, I think it still has the old commissioner on. They haven't even updated that you're the new nominee, anything. And it concerns me because this is supposed to be used as a tool to readily interact and give information to the public. Who monitors this, and how can that be improved that the information is up to date?
As I understand it, between our PIO and maybe our director of management information systems would be the ones that monitor the website. I'm going to thank you for even bringing that to the forefront, because I myself have not, had not taken a look at the website intricately to see that there's, that there may be antiquated or old information on it. But if I can, Senator, if I can ask Ms. Tweed if she has anything to add to that.
Good afternoon, Senator. So yes, we are in the process right now of upgrading our website platform so it can be more updated. And the information on the website is maintained by my office along with the PIU, who mainly updates the information on the website. So we definitely look into that. Where you said that there was more information, I'm sure that is updated. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I look forward, because being from a MIS background, I'm a techie, so I'm always looking. All righty. Thank you so much for the indulgence, Mr. Chair.
You're very welcome, Senator Francis Heyliger.